everybody. We're going to take a look at circulatory pathways. We're looking at a model of the cardiovascular system. The pathways that we're specifically going to look at least to start, are pathways to the arm and to the leg. So let's take a look at the arm first. So let's start from the left ventricle. Here we have the left ventricle. And so that's the start of any systemic circulatory pathway. Left ventricle pumps blood out through the aortic semilunar valve, through the aorta, and now we've got a couple decisions to make. If we want to get to the right arm, we have to go this way. This little branch here, it's hiding underneath this blue vein. This little branch, that's the brachiocephalic vein. Excuse me, artery. It's a brachiocephalic artery. It's also called a trunk, brachiocephalic trunk, because a trunk is a short, wide blood vessel that branches. So brachiocephalic artery or brachiocephalic trunk, same thing. If we want to get to the arm, we keep going along the brachiocephalic artery. It'll branch either to the right common carotid or the right subclavian. We want to go to right subclavian. So here's a brachiocephalic, here's a right subclavian. The right subclavian will continue. Once we get to this next branching point, this little bit here, that's axillary. Axillary because we're in the shoulder armpit region. Then once we keep going, more branching points hiding under here. This stretch, that is the brachiocephalic, or excuse me, the brachial. This is brachiocephalic, this is brachial. So there we have our brachial artery. I'm going to pause there to show the other side. If we go the other way, if you want to go to the left arm, because we have an aortic arch here, we don't need a brachiocephalic artery. Because we have an aortic arch going to the left, we don't need a brachiocephalic artery. This is the left common carotid. The third one here, that's the left subclavian. So right subclavian's over here, left subclavian's going off of the aortic arch. So here's the left subclavian. Then we get to the shoulder region. This is left axillary. From left axillary, you get the left brachial. And we're at the same point we are left and right. So at this point, it's pretty much identical. So I'm just going to go look on the right side because we have more blood vessels showing here. So once we get past the brachial, we then branch. Let me go back to my green. We then branch. We got one artery on the radial side, so that's our radial artery. We have one artery on the ulnar side. That's the ulnar artery. Pinky side is ulnar. Those are our major arteries in our forearms. There are more, but we're not going to go over them. There is an anastomosis here. You can see how it curves and connects. And it'll branch to capillaries, and they're standard continuous capillaries. Same thing on the other side, though if you note on the other side, it's a little twisted. The wrist has been pronated, so it doesn't show all the blood vessels. We're gonna take a look now at the veins as we come back. When we come back, there's actually two veins that aren't shown here. There is a radial vein, there is an ulnar vein. Those do exist, and they're deep. But there's other veins that are shown here that are more superficial. This long vein here, it's lateral, that's the cephalic vein. And this long vein here, that is the basilic. That is the basilic vein. Those two veins are connected. You can see this crossing right here. Those two veins are connected by, it's called the median cubital, the median cubital vein. So we can come back through the ulnar or radial vein, which eventually link up to the brachial vein. I should say this is basilic, and then we go on to brachial. So here's brachial, the brachial vein. So the radial and ulnar veins can go to the brachial vein, um, or we can have the median cubital go to brachial. We can have the basilic go to brachial. The cephalic meets up later. It'll go. There's an axillary vein and a subclavian vein. So we've gone in order. Let's just go on this medial side. Basilic, brachial, axillary, subclavian. Or if we go on the lateral side, cephalic, subclavian. So multiple ways to return to the heart. Once we reach the subclavian vein, we then get to, I'm getting a bit cluttered here, so I'm going to clear all this or use a different color. Once we get to past the subclavian, this little branch here, that's the right brachiocephalic vein. There's only one brachiocephalic artery. There are two brachiocephalic veins. This is the right brachiocephalic vein. Here is the left brachiocephalic vein. So we have both here for brachiocephalic. That wasn't true for the arteries because there was that aortic arch. Both of the brachiocephalic veins, right brachiocephalic, left brachiocephalic, they meet up here in the middle. That's our superior vena cava. Superior vena cava is draining blood from the head, from the, here's the jugular meeting up with the brachiocephalic veins, right brachiocephalic, left brachiocephalic, to the superior vena cava, draining blood to the right atrium. That's how we get blood going to and from the arms, to and from the hands. Let's take a look at the legs. So when we look at the legs, I guess we'll start, how do we get down to the legs in the first place? Starting at the left atrium again, out the aorta, we go up, ascending aorta, aortic arch, descending aorta. This is behind the heart, so I'm going to draw it as a dotted line. Behind the heart, behind all this mess, it's a, what do you call it? By the time we get to the abdominal cavity, it's retroperitoneal, the aorta. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And here's the end of the aorta, down here. That's the end of the aorta. We've reached the very tip. So the aorta is longer than you think. It's not just around the heart. Let's zoom in now on the legs. So we're talking about arteries. We're here at the end of the aorta. It's mirrored left and right, so it doesn't matter which way we go. Let's go on the, which way is it easier to see? Let's start on this left side, and then I'll show the veins on the right side. Okay, so here we are at the end of the aorta, end of the descending abdominal aorta, and this branching point, this is the common iliac. Let me use a different color. Common iliac. The common iliac, whenever you see the word common, then you know it's going to branch. Here's the branching. It either branches this way or it branches that way. This is the internal iliac, and here is the external iliac. Internal is going to the pelvic organs, genitalia, urinary organs. External iliac is going towards the leg. So the external iliac brings us, once we get past the pelvis, down here, that's when we get to the femoral artery. Femoral artery. There are more arteries that continue. The femoral artery will branch a bit, but I'm not going to ask you to know that, but just so you can see. Femoral artery will, of course, go into tibial and fibular and stuff in the foot. You see anastomosis here, but I just want you to know that at least down to the femoral artery. It's a very large, long artery. When we're coming back from the capillaries, we've got several important veins. The longest vein in your body is in your leg, and it's this really long one you see here. The longest vein is this. And it's known as the Great saphenous vein. The great saphenous vein. It's a subcutaneous vein, really long. So you might be wondering, where's the femoral vein? There is a femoral vein. It's cut off right here. So this little fragment here, it's cut off and it would continue deeper in. There is a femoral vein. It's just a piece of it's only shown here on this model. We keep going up. Great saphenous drains a lot of the leg. Femoral vein drains from the leg. And then we get mimicked from what we saw before. We have an external iliac vein and an internal, external iliac vein. There is an internal iliac that would be branching right here. And then we have our common iliac vein returning to the inferior vena cava up to the right atrium. That is our circulation to the leg. All right, I'm going to pause here. We're going to go to another video to take a look at, what do we have left? To digestive circulation, renal, adrenal circulation, and hypophyseal circulation. So take a look at the other videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.